If we were able to place a few words between Parshas Balak and Parshas Pinchas, we'd probably write to be continued. The drama of the end of Parshas Balak was such that Balak, the king of Moab, was not successful in getting Bilam to curse the Jewish people. But Bilam tells Balak at the end, he says, if you want to get God, if you want to get Hashem angry at his people, then the way to do it is by getting the people involved in immorality and having them worship idols. So Balak, the king of Moab, tells the Moabite women to entice the Jewish men and have them worship Baal Peor, which was an idol that they had them worship. And as that transpires, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, is becoming angrier and angrier. And ultimately, he tells Moshe to bring everyone out, all of the heads of the tribes, and make sure that the people who worship the idol are going to be punished in front of everyone. And just as that's happening, just as the drama is taking place, and the heads of the tribes are listening to the words of Moshe and the command and the task that they are about to be given, all of a sudden one of the heads of the tribe, Zimri, takes one of these Moabite women, Cosby, and is together with her in front of Moshe, in front of everyone. We can't even imagine the terrible, embarrassing scene. And Pinchas, the son of Elazar, who is the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, after his father Aaron died, takes a spear and he kills, with one push of that spear, he kills Zimri and he kills Cosby, and all of a sudden the Magefa, that which was happening, it was as if the Jewish people were stopped in their place to realize what was transpiring, and all of a sudden, everything stopped. Which brings us to this week's Parsha, where Hashem says to Moshe, Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, Hashem speaks to Moshe saying that Pinchas stopped the anger, the wrath of Hashem that he had toward the Jewish people, because he did something to stop the terrible actions of the people. And so we wonder what was happening with Pinchas at that moment. After he went and killed Zimri and Cosby, what was happening with him? Was he proud? Was he happy? Was he scared? Well, so the Medrash explains to us that Pinchas was not positive. What wasn't he positive about? The Magid Mesharim explains that Pinchas was concerned. He was concerned that maybe Moshe was angry at him. Maybe Moshe was angry because maybe Moshe didn't want him to kill Zimri and Cosby. Of course, it was a very big deal. Here he killed a head of a tribe. And so he was concerned that maybe Moshe was angry. And on the second level, maybe Moshe was angry because the Medrash tells us that they asked Moshe, what do we do with such an event? What do we do with something like this? And Moshe was so shocked. It said that he was so shocked by the audacity of Zimri that Moshe, the halacha, just left Moshe as to what was supposed to do. And so Pinchas just acts, and he's worried that perhaps Moshe is angry at him. So ultimately Hashem says, I want to give Pinchas the kehuna, I want to give him the priesthood, I want to give him with that the bris, the covenant of shalom, and he says, I want you, Moshe, to be the one to give it to him. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, Hashem speaks to Moshe, saying, tell Pinchas, Moshe, you be the one to tell Pinchas that he's going to have the kehuna. You be the one to tell Pinchas so that he need not worry that you are angry at him. And I think it's a very powerful thing, because if we imagine at certain moments in our lives, we don't know what other people think of us or our actions. And on the one hand, we only should need to worry about what God thinks of our actions. But there's an end to those words, which is we need to have a little concern of what other people think as well, in a healthy way, to hope that our actions are looked upon in a happy and in a proud way by other people, by our peers. And here Pinchas was so scared that was not the case. So Moshe was told by Hashem to assure him that indeed he acted correctly. Sometimes we struggle and we don't know what other people think of us. And sometimes we don't let others know how we think of them. And they may suffer because they don't have that clarity. So perhaps one of the lessons we can take from this week's Parsha is to be able to tell people, if there's something that we need to say to them that may not be as comfortable, well, maybe we need to say it, but try to make it as loving as possible. After all, we're in the period of the 3 weeks now where we're trying to work on our connection to each other, the love that we have to have towards our fellow Jews. After all, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because we were lacking with love. So now we try to focus on that love. So perhaps we tell someone how we feel about them, maybe that we're disappointed in something, that we try to make up, make them feel better, or make ourselves feel better. Or at the same time, if we're proud and we're happy with someone, let's not just keep it inside, but let's tell them how happy we are with our relationship. So may we take this lesson from Pinchas's life, from this moment that's held up in the air, which ultimately gets soothed by Moshe, to look at the relationships in our lives and to be very clear with people about how we feel about them as well. Thank you for listening and have a good Shabbos.